Hey, folks, welcome to Kaiser's Castle. Uh, Grab yourself a seat on my big orange couch, grab a coffee, tea, soda, and/or adult libation, and get ready for all the hijinks and fun. Baz joins me today, and we're just going to be discussing some things. Probably start with the Rittenhouse. I know we're all bored of that here in America, but his international take and his take as a father, I respect that, plus his military take, and also his take as working in Northern Ireland and in Serbia when it fell, when all the nastiness was going on down there in the Balkans, and you guys can hear his take as well as mine, and it's just two brothers. We may disagree at times, but you'll notice we're not disagreeable. It's just the American and English points of view, and some of the phraseology may be slightly different, but we both know what we're talking about. With that being said, run with it, baby, because I want to hear your side of it. We have not been through this, so we will find out where it leads.
Yeah, thanks for that, brother. I was just having issues with my phone there, slight issues. Yeah, so obviously we only get snippets of the news over here in regards to Rittenhouse and what we see on social media and stuff. But I always try and filter through most of the shit because obviously we know that the media and social media has always got leanings of some kind. It's always got some sort of some agenda behind it. So filtering out, we've spoken on it 1,000 times. You've got to sort of filter through the shit and sort of put all the pieces together like a jigsaw and make your own mind up. So it's just, like you said, obviously over in the States, you guys have gone through the Rittenhouse saga, and a lot of people have broken it down, and it's just become basically a boring point to touch on now. But what you might not have heard is sort of other people's opinions on it. Of now, my opinion to the American citizenry, it means shit because I'm an Englishman. You know what I mean? I have no skin in the game. I have no say over your laws and things like that, and how you should run your own nation when it's nothing to do with me. But like I say, we always like to hear other people's side of the story. And we were having a chat before the show on the ins and outs of the Rittenhouse case, and I think we're both under the extreme sort of same agreement that it's a clear cut case of self-defense. Like I was saying there, you take all the bullshit surrounding the entire fucking debacle of it, of the DNC basically funding the riots, what was going on. You take all that crap out and you just take it as Kyle Rittenhouse or Boy A was walking or defending his home, his property from rioters, and then these three people try to seriously injure or kill him. And again, we broke it down there. You've got people saying, yeah, he's a murderer, he did this. It's bullshit. At the end of the day, he's a young guy who was there, and three people accosted him. At least two of them tried to seriously injure or kill him. Like the guy with the skateboard. You don't smash someone in the head with a skateboard because you're trying to tickle them. You're trying to injure them or even kill them. So that's a clear-cut case. You beat someone over the head with a heavy metal object or a wooden object. It's escalation of violence at the end of the day. If someone's trying to do that, then you've got to either meet or exceed that violence, which Kyle Rittenhouse did, and he ventilated the fucker. And then you had the other fucker that came up and went to kick him in the head, like we were saying there. Over here in the UK, we've got something called ABH, which is actual bodily harm, and GBH, which is grievous bodily harm. You kick someone in the gut, it's classed as ABH, actual bodily harm. The chances of them dying is quite slim. But grievous bodily harm can seriously injure, maim, or kill, which kicking someone in the head, it amounts to GBH. And again, if you're kicking someone in the head and you've been somewhere you're not meant to be, let's say you're robbing someone's house and you kick them in the head, that's GBH with intent because you're actually intending to hurt somebody to meet your own ends. And that's what that dude did. And again, He got fucking ventilated. Unlucky.
No,
And it
drop kick,
just so happens.
drop
Go on
kick,
with it.
drop kick man didn't get ventilated. He kicked him, and he bounced over him, and he didn't know who it was that kicked him, and that's where he held his fire. So that was one of the things that they made, and then they didn't. They waited until the trial was actually when the jurors were sequestered and deciding the facts. It came out that guy, the prosecutors knew who he was, and then under U.S. law, which probably is close to your common law, English common law, because that's what our legal system's based off of. In fact, and in part, what ended up happening is his name comes out. He was known, and the prosecution decides who they put up on the stand, and they didn't put him up on the stand because that would have made Rittenhouse look even better because he didn't shoot the guy in the back.
Yeah.
But he also
courageous restraint and all that good stuff.
Yeah, he did. He didn't even take a shot. He tried to see who it was, and that was it. And then that's when homeboy with the gun goes running up on him. And this is after the first guy tried to grab his gun. You know, that was the first shoot.
Yeah.
So go on.
Like if you're grabbing another person's firearm, it's not because you want to take it away from them and put it in a dumpster or something like that. You'll make it safe. You're trying to take it in that situation. They're trying to take that firearm to use on Carl Rittenhouse. Self-defense. You get fucking ventilated, and then homeboy with the Glock gets his upper arm vaporized. And to be honest, he's fucking lucky that it wasn't, because the way that he got shot was from Carl Rittenhouse laying on the ground. He's lucky that round was a foot to the right. It had gone up under his chin and removed top of his skull. You know, so but we let's say all the armchair juries and judges can point the finger at Rittenhouse or the others, but at the end of the day, in my eyes, it's a clear-cut case of self-defense. No matter, but he came across straight lines. We know the difference, or we know the actual facts that he didn't come across straight lines and all this. But let's say even if Kyle had come from out of state into Kenosha, it doesn't matter, because the fuckers that he was shooting or he shot, some of them were out of state that were brought in. So we can't point the finger one way and not point it the other way. But at the end of the day, the good thing happened, and he walked out of court a free man, a free kid.
And about to be a very wealthy man, because he's going to sue Biden, because Biden vilified him as a Nazi, which provably is not the case. He vilified him as a white separatist and all kinds of things. And then you had MSNBC, CNN, and CNN's global folks, just like, and a matter of fact, Tucker Carlson. I don't know if you guys get Fox News over there, brother, but Fox News, Tucker Carlson, interviewed the guy Nicholas Sandmann from when they were said he was smirking at an American Indian and he was a white nationalist. And they were the Covington, Kentucky kids when Trump first got elected, and they tried to say he was some sort of white nationalist or something. Oh, he's a multimillionaire. And there's a meme over here where it has a picture of Rittenhouse in his suit and Nicholas Sandmann in his suit. And it's right in front of CNN headquarters and says, two of the lead owners of CNN have said there's going to be a different direction that the news broadcast is taking.
Well, like I said, you would think that the left-leaning media would have learnt the lesson from last time. You start painting somebody something they're not, you're liable for defamation of character or whatever you want to call it over there. And let's say, I'm aware of Nicholas Sandmann where he was standing on the steps with his MAGA hat on, and he smirked, but it was more sort of, he said it was more of a nervous smirk than anything. You got this young guy standing there. It doesn't matter whether he smirked. All he did was, even if it was a malicious smirk, that's all it was. At the end of the day, you don't then get called a fucking Nazi by. It's not the fact that someone's called him a Nazi because you've got freedom of speech. It's when you've got a national or a global media outlet painting you this picture that you're not, and telling people that which affects your life. At the end of the day, it's defamation of character. And Biden's done the same. Rittenhouse, so has MSNBC, CNN, and he's walked out of court a free man, and he's going to get another win on his record now when he takes them all to court.
Well,
You know,
it's even funnier. It's even funnier than that, because as president, all Biden's has said his handlers walked it back with a statement, but he said the jury spoke it, right? Like he didn't agree with it or something. But see, he was a civilian. He was a citizen running to be president when he called Rittenhouse a white nationalist and stuff, and used it as a campaign ad. And so his campaign staff, everybody, sue them all. You know, I've been called names. I've been called names before, and it was with great restraint that I didn't sue their asses. And but as you and I both know during those times, it may have affected me a little bit, but not that much, because my channel came back stronger than ever, and they can all eat a dick now. And that's my 2 cents on that, Brother Maine.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I mean, what we obviously in another forum, I've had a quick conversation, reference it, and it came up about what has happened after the Rittenhouse case, which may or may not be linked at this moment in time with the fucking 2-bit rapper that ploughed into the Christmas parade in his red SUV. And again, people were saying, oh, we could have shot him, we could have shot him, we could have shot him. Now, it sort of like links itself, the way I'm going to speak about it, to the Rittenhouse case where Kyle Rittenhouse, without probably thinking about it, completed his OODA loop quite quickly. And that was probably not so much his OODA loop, but it was kind of like flee or fight, and he couldn't flee because he was laid on his back. So he showed courageous restraint. He didn't mag dump into these people. His rounds were, you know what I mean, aimed in the general direction of the threat, and luckily all his rounds hit, or it might have been a different question in court, different outcome if other people were injured. But that just comes down to physics. That I think physics played heavily. Lucky physics played heavily into Kyle's case there, because as a 17-year-old with very, very little or no training, do you think about where the round's going to go after it hits my target? Because at that range, bullets going to go hit the target and go through them. So I think the fact that he was laying down and his bullets either went into the target and out the target through the top, into the air, you know what I mean? That's probably a lucky thing. But we won't get into that because I don't know the trajectory of his rounds. I wasn't any of the CSIs there, but I think we're lucky that he didn't fire more rounds than he did, which in my eyes showed great restraint in his favour.
I look at it like this. You and I both have discussed this on other shows. Both of us entered military service as 17-year-old kids with parental consent. And, you did too, right? We've talked about this, right, Baz? So, you don't mind me saying that, do you? I know we've talked about it before, but I wanted to bring it up because it's kind of pertinent. And both of us were sent into very risky situations, and we didn't have a lot of oversight. We were taught to take our decisions, and we were going to be held liable if we made a fucked up decision. It's that easy. So when they say, oh, a 17-year-old shouldn't and wouldn't and couldn't and whatever, it's like, look, the government said it was okay for me in the United States to carry a rifle and a pistol at 17. And machine guns, by the way. They were actual assault weapons. Use of a selector switch. Let's get the definition right. All Kyle Rittenhouse had was a semi-automatic rifle. That means it will only fire every time the trigger is squeezed. Yeah. When we talk about machine guns, we're talking about an assault rifle. Let's be very clear what an assault rifle is. An assault rifle is any weapon by use of a selector switch can go from semi to burst or full
Fully
automatic.
automatic.
And that was invented with the Sturmgewehr 43. And that
Yeah.
was a German invention. And Sturmgewehr basically means storm gun, assault gun. Okay? So it's super easy. AR in America and in Europe only means Armalite rifle. Armalite was the company that designed that rifle, and they called it, all of them were called ARs. They have an AR-7, which is a 22 breakdown survival rifle. And that's an AR-7, and that's the one they launched. Well, they had an AR-1. The whole Armalite rifles is an interesting thing when you go and see where it came from. It was actually an engine company that Fairchild Engine, I think it was called, or something like that. I don't have my book in front of me, so if I got it wrong, tell me in the comments. Remember, like, comment, and share. I'm noticing that YouTube's taking away likes again on my page, which was funny, and I think shows that they're about ready to ban me again because they did it the last time. But please comment, because I may be wrong that it wasn't Fairchild. I'm going by memory, and my memory's been getting a little spotty. But it was just the 15th rifle of the series. They also have an AR-18, which got more use overseas than it did here. It was an interesting rifle too. I had one for a while, and I sold it like an idiot. They called it an AR-180 over here in America. So, anywho, run with it, brother.
Yeah, so going back to my original point, obviously he showed courageous restraint, and he completed his probably involuntary OODA loop quite quickly, where although what happened after the fact with the SUV and the Christmas Day parade, the conversation was brought up that if a CCW or an armed citizen was there, they could have stopped it, which we're going down into hypotheses now and what ifs and things like that. And someone said, we could probably have stopped all these people getting injured and killed. But again, I think what people have got to be aware of, because now that Kyle Rittenhouse has walked free, it's kind of set precedence, that armed citizens, and rightfully so, can walk around armed, knowing that they can use their weapons, their firearms, or whatever they've got, to defend themselves or others around them from people wanting to hurt, injure, maim, kill them without fear of repercussion. Oh, there'll be repercussions and there'll be court cases and such if it ever gets taken to court, but it's set precedence. Now, with this 2-bit rapper that ploughed into people who was fleeing from a crime scene anyway, if you shoot someone driving towards you in a car, then it's cut and dry case of self-defense. If you're shooting someone who's fleeing the scene, who may have killed somebody, again, it's for a jury to decide whether it was a good shooting. You've got to, somebody had asked, what's the OODA loop? The observe, orientate, decide, and act. You're taking on the points, you're observing everything, what's going on around you, what's actually happening in the 3D sphere. And then you're orientating where you stand, what options you've got your disposable. And then the decide is, what can I do about it? What am I going to do with these people around me? If I squeeze the trigger, where are these bullets going to go? And the likelihood of them actually hitting the target. And then act is obviously carrying out it's like the execution of what you just sort of summed up, the combat estimate. And there's a scenario that I'll use, and it was something similar, back in Northern Ireland, back in the early 90s. I won't mention his name, the guy that he shot, but the paratrooper Lee Clegg, he was standing on what we call a VCP, it was a vehicle checkpoint in Northern Ireland, and a vehicle drove towards him. Now, they didn't know who was inside this vehicle, but basically this vehicle drove towards the VCP, and it was obviously hostile. It burst through the VCP. I'm not sure whether it actually hit anybody. I know it didn't kill anybody, but I can't remember whether it actually hit or injured anybody. And several rounds were fired at the vehicle. Lee Clegg, after the vehicle passed the checkpoint, had then fired more rounds into the vehicle. And one of these rounds had hit and basically, I can't remember, paralysed or killed a young girl who was in that car. He went to jail for that because it was proven that he didn't know that it was then basically the threat had finished. There was no checkpoint after that. There was no cars or pedestrians because it was quite a quiet road. So he actually got prosecuted for it because he completed his OODA loop, and it was found that he didn't have to fire the round that crippled or killed that girl. And at least his rounds hit the vehicle. I think what we're going to look at is if in that situation, again, things come into play. If there's a vehicle ploughing through a crowd and you fire rounds into a vehicle and all your rounds hit that vehicle and disable it, or they hit the driver, they disable or kill the driver, in my eyes, that's fucking great. You've saved probably X amount of lives or people getting injured. If you shoot and you strike a civilian, it's not the fact is that you've stopped the driver, is that you've hit, injured or killed a civilian through your actions, and you'll be held accountable to that. Let's say you you shoot and you completely miss the vehicle and hit a civilian, then you're going to get done for that. And again, it's that split second decision that you've got to complete that OODA loop. And fortunately for people like me, for you, for people who in law enforcement, in the military, or in that sphere of things where you have to complete an OODA loop quite quickly, it's something that you can train on. You've done it before, you'll do it again. But someone like Kyle Rittenhouse or someone at that Christmas parade, I wish that there was someone there that could have stopped that driver. An OODA loop, you don't even know what an OODA loop is. First of all, it's just a decision you need to make there and then. And I think the reason, let's say if it was let's say it was you, Shuffy, at 17 years old, that was on leave from the military, you might be held to a different standard to Kyle Rittenhouse because you've had training X, Y, and Z. Let's say if Kyle Rittenhouse had shot somebody that he not meant to have shot, you'd be held at a different standard, and the outcome might not have been as favourable as it was for Kyle.
Right. Especially in Ohio. See, federal law and military law, all that stuff's slightly different. But in the state of Ohio, at that time, first there was no concealed carry. There was what you had was called the reasonable man clause. And that means you would still go to court just for carrying a gun. You could open carry anywhere in Ohio, but in the cities you'd get done for menacing. That was a charge that they still use in Ohio. That's why a concealed carry permit exists now. But even with concealed carry or carry, in the state of Ohio, it doesn't matter if it's my wife, my son, anybody near me. I cannot shoot if somebody's holding a gun to my wife. Legally, they have to point the gun at me, and then it's justifiable.
Yeah.
So that's just the law for a citizen. Now, law enforcement, there's some different laws in that, and we can go down what's been held by the Supreme Court, but I don't want to go. I'll tell people to look at one legal case, and you guys can look it up all by yourself. And it was Tennessee versus Garner, or Garner versus Tennessee, one or the other. It was Garner versus Tennessee, I think. Anyways,
was that the guy that shot at the SWAT team?
No. This is back in the 60s.
Okay.
Tennessee had a oddball law to where if you were running with property over X amount of dollars, and at that time a TV was over X amount of dollars, and this guy had broken in and stole the TV, as he was fleeing, it was legal to shoot him in the back. A fleeing person committing a crime after X amount of dollars, it was perfectly legal to shoot him in the back, escaping. And he did it. And it had been done for, eons. That law had been on the books in Tennessee. Well, Tennessee got sued over it, and that changed national law and it changed state laws. You can't shoot a fleeing subject unless they are likely to do harm. As a cop now, unless they're armed, dangerous, likely to do harm to others. That changes the rule, but that's in law enforcement. It's not with anything else that's a gun carrier. You can't do that, So, yeah, it's Tennessee versus Garner. So, but that case, you guys can. I used to love diving into case law because that shit will hem you up and jim you up if you don't know it. And it's all about one thing. We've talked about this on my show before, articulating the facts. You don't give a spontaneous comment about anything. You collect your mind, lawyer up, and then you go through the events as you remember them. And as I tell everybody, and I've said this since 2003, everything is on video no matter where you're at. Don't ever think you're doing something nobody's not going to see. Because somebody's got a video camera, and if they think something's a little sus, if it's looking kind of sus, they're going to fucking start running video. So, your thoughts, man. I mean, might be a difference from English common law. That's why I brought it up earlier.
I mean, I think obviously the intricacies of law between the US and the UK is you're a bit more sort of complex over there because you've got federal law, you've got state law. You know what I mean? You've got all different laws where federal law might trump another law, where you can't be prosecuted in the state for something, but you can be prosecuted federally for it. And if they want to chase you that way, you know what I mean? So there's different ways that they can fuck you in the States, where in the UK, it's kind of, we've got one law. Whether the laws you commit this crime in Yorkshire or you commit it in Lancashire or in Sussex or fucking different. We don't have states. We've got counties, which are like your states, if you know what I mean. Obviously, it's a lot fucking smaller. It doesn't matter because the same law applies nationwide. You know what I mean? There's no sort of different intricacies. We've still got ancient laws. That we've got an ancient law that states that you can still shoot a Scotsman within the city walls of York City with a longbow.
Wow, obviously, that's nice.
If you did that, you'd probably be prosecuted. But it's just one of these quirky laws that still stand in the UK. I won't try it. You know what I mean? And I would dare say if you're walking around with a longbow in York City, then they'll probably do you with intent rather than anything else. But probably just I've digressed a bit. But what you were on about there is everything's recorded nowadays. I think what they do as well is, and I'm not sure whether you might be able to correct me on this, but with the Rittenhouse case, they're looking to the shit that you've done before. Now, I was reading something on Instagram not so long ago, and it was by was it ex-Marine or ex-Green Beret, and they said you've got all these cool operator schools now where guys are learning how to shoot, like civilians can learn how to shoot, like SOF guys, you know what I mean? And they've all got the cool stickers on the gun cases, they've got cool stickers on the cars and stuff like that. And that's going to be used against you in a court of law because it shows that's that you're looking for that. You're as a private citizen, you're looking to be able to shoot like a special forces operator. And they try and say you had intent. You know what I mean? You wanted this to happen. So again, it's things like that.
It's as stupid as that. You saw the meme that I saw. I know you did. Guy on the back has an AR-15 and it says "Come and take it," and then the next photo is the same vehicle, window bashed,
with all the back windows smashed.
And of course, you just painted your fucking self into that. Now, as a veteran, I do this. Nobody else has to do it. And as a former cop, I do have a thin blue line, small sticker that I put on my license plate. and it's in an area where you can legally put a sticker on your license plate. And I also have my military police and then my different unit patches on it. That's what I have on my vehicle. Period. And and my military branches, DOD all the way up. And so that's the thing, man. I mean, but do I think? Well, not in my town. But guess what? If I leave to go to a town, I don't go into places where that's going to be an issue. But I don't have any gun bullshit on my car.
Yeah.
I don't have any weird shit in my car. It's just retarded to jock up when you're not jockable. When you're not a jock and you can't articulate to the police why you have something, and then the real idiocy. Do you remember when they were having like for your on your ARs, on your flaps, your ejector flap?
Yeah, they had like Moreland Lab and stuff like that.
Yeah, and people would put that kind of bullshit on their rifles, and I'm like,
punish your skulls and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, gents, why?
Yeah. It looks cool, but at the end of the day, if you use it, they do bring. It doesn't mean anything. It's bravado. It's like when we used to walk around in Afghanistan and places like that, with morale patches. You know what I mean? Well, morale patches and I'll every bit of fucking Velcro we had.
Yeah, but
it doesn't mean anything.
To us, it was jokes, man. It wasn't even. It wasn't even taken seriously. It was something that you'd be like, "Oh, that's a funny one, man."
Yeah. But again, it can be used against you. It shows intent. So I think it's important, like you said there, driving around town where you live. We all stickers on and things like that. It's not going to create a big issue. But let's say if you lived in, I don't know, Bakersfield, California, or if you lived in San Francisco and you drove around or Seattle or Washington, you know what I mean?
Right.
You drove around with unit patches or unit stickers on your vehicle. The chances are you come back to flat tires, fucking scratches down the side, and all your windows smashed in because that's. So you've got to be, again, well, we've touched on it before, you've got to be the grey man. And if you do go to all these school things like that where you're learning how to shoot, it's always better to not advertise the fact that you can fucking shoot. One, as a safety aspect, you have to keep people in the dark. There's a video, and chances are a lot of people haven't seen it. I think it's somewhere like Brazil or something like that, where a guy walks into a barber's and shoots the barber dead. Well, he shoots the barber, puts a couple of shots, and the barber goes down. Now, the guy that's in the chair getting the haircut and the shave, the gunman turns around to him and says, "You can fuck off." So he gets up, turns around, goes behind. The gunman then closes into barber to then finish him off. And the guy that's just standing there with the cape on goes behind the gunman, turns around, pulls out his CCW and just drops him, just nails him with 4 shots, bang, 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 just centre of mass.
Yep.
So he's not advertised the fact. Like you see people walking around with Kimber 1911s on the hip and stuff like that. If you can get a CCW, if your state allows you to have CCW, why aren't you going for CCW? Because in my case, and this is, you can tell me to shut the fuck up because I can't walk around with a Kimber 1911. Not that I walk around with a Kimber 1911 anywhere, and there's a lot better firearms out. But in my eyes, if you can either carry it on your hip wherever you can see it, or you can carry it in a pancake holster under your shirt, I was walking into somewhere to rob them. The first person that I'd fucking put one centre of mass is the guy with the Kimber 1911 on his hip. Because he's the threat.
And those that print, and by printing, I'm not just talking about weapons print. I'm talking about printing out in the open. 511 hat, 511 shirt, 511 pants, combat boots. Oh, dude, man. We can go down.
Come and take it. Don't tread on me t-shirt.
If you can read this, then you are in range t-shirt. I do have one of those, but I use it on the fucking range. You know, there's a time and a place, and there's always room to put a cover jacket on. Loose clothing, get yourself something like a Glock 43. You guys know I'm a Glock guy. everything I have is 9 because, get a couple mags for the damn thing. It's thin, it's unobtrusive, nobody knows you have it on. Uh, Wear a jacket, something loose. If you buy shirts, if you're a large, get an extra large shirt. If you're an extra large, get a double X large shirt. Leave it untucked. So what? People think you're a bum. That's what you want them to think. You don't want anybody to know what skill sets you have. And that's the modicum of a true warrior, is being the Grayman. Don't sit at the bar where you can look and see all the doors and you stand out instantly as a cop or somebody. You sit at the bar. The mirror will show you everything. Look into the mirror.
It's basic field craft, in it. Basic field craft, and obviously,
Yep.
as a young guy working in Northern Ireland, some of the jobs we did in Northern Ireland, we had to learn it quite quickly. There wasn't, you know what I mean? No one sat us down and said it was just experience. We spoke to people that had done it before. You know what I mean? Silly things like in our shirts when we used to, obviously we were plain clothed. In our shirts, what we used to do is at the bottom where your shirt gets buttoned up, at the bottom where the material's folded over, we used to pick that open and sew 3 or 4 pennies in there. So when you're sweeping that shirt away to obviously pull out a firearm, it's got weight, so it's going to get out of the way, if you know what I mean. And you can do that. You can do that with loose clothing. You can do that with mainly anything that's zip fastened or button fastened. Is get some pennies at the bottom of it, and then when you're sweeping it out the way, it's out the way quickly. You aren't fumbling, with clothing to get it out. It's just little things that you only learn by experience.
Everything.
But one of the biggest things, like there, is don't advertise the fact that you're a threat.
Everybody knows that I'm one of those anorak cunts. And, I look like the guy in England that watches trains. That's the big joke with people who wear anoraks. And it's a type of, it looks like an American sweatshirt that you have the little pocket in the front, right? Except it zips up and down a little bit. It goes to the pocket. Anyways, I love my anoraks. With that, it's super easy on the draw. Lift it up, pull it past your titty. If your left hand's not past your titty on the draw, you're wrong. And then meet your fucking hand right there, and you got left and right now, both thumbs, writing thumbs, and squeeze. Aim and squeeze. Don't pull the trigger. Don't yank the trigger. Squeeze it slowly. When it shoots, it's to surprise you. And then follow through for your second shot, because you'll probably need it. And then once the threat's neutralized, you're done. Put it away. Wait for the police. Simple. Unless you have to get the fuck out of there, then go to the police and say you were the guy that did blah, blah, blah. And why? With a lawyer.
You've got to get your positioning correct. Again, it's just... These things can be trained at a range, but the chances are the one situation you're in, you've never trained for, you've never come across it, So all you've got to do is do your best, Is if there's a target to your front, whether it's front or back, you get yourself at 45 degrees. And that way, they've got to adjust to you and not you to them. It's just you aren't shooting through the target. If you're shooting for 45 degrees, you've got a chance. Chances are you've got a lot more flesh and bone to stop a round from over penetration and coming out the other side and hitting someone behind it. Again, it comes back to be a threat, but don't advertise you're a threat.
Yep.
Know that you're a threat yourself. You know what I mean? We can't always walk around with our head on a swivel. We can't always walk around with, you know what I mean? We can't walk around like Putin with his KGB gunman walk. There's the chances are of something happening, you'll be completely unaware that it's actually happened, and it'll be that time that your guard is down, where you've got to complete your OODA loop and you've got to get yourself into a situation where you can neutralize a threat, or you can keep yourself and those around you safe.
Well, you can walking around with confidence, looking at people in the eyes, saying hello. Everybody says Americans are really friendly. I'm the friendliest guy you met. because I'll say hello to everybody. And what I'm doing is I'm acknowledging I see you, I've looked at you, I've already assessed you. That's it. It's point blank that. And be a nice person. But also have your intent. But you're not saying, hello, nice to meet you, I have a plan to kill you already. That's fucking retarded.
Yeah. But you do see that. You do see that. And I think you become a threat yourself, if you know what I mean, and not a threat for the good. You become a hindrance and an obstacle, especially if there's someone there, law enforcement are there and things like that. And you've got to look at the Dan Bilzerian at the Las Vegas shooting. You know, this clown ran up and said, "Do you want to see my credentials? Give me a gun." Fucking get away! You're a Navy SEAL dropout. You know, don't. He could have done a lot more there than rather than run up to that one cop and say, "Give me a gun. There's my credentials." You know, the cop in his right frame of mind turned around and told him to fuck off. You know, don't become an extra threat. That the police are there. The police are doing their job. They're going to have people there that are highly trained SWAT team members, tactical team members to go and neutralise that threat. They don't need some random Instagram wannabe running around with a fucking firearm just for likes and votes and I'm a cool guy status. You know,
I never heard this story. Where'd you see this one at, man? That's the only Vegas story I never heard of.
Yeah, no, the country music shootings, the guy in the hotel.
Right. I know what it is. I'm saying I've never heard that one.
You know who Dan Bilzerian is?
Brother, I have no clue who the fuck he is.
Right, Dan Bilzerian is this guy. Look him up. I'll give you a brief oversight of him. He's basically this cool guy, Instagrammer. His dad, the Bilzerian, was got rich through Ponzi fucking fraud or something like, or pyramid schemes. He's inherited a lot of his money. He plays a lot of poker, and he tried for the SEALs, rang out, and then basically he lives off this cool guy status where he does ranges and things like that. He's just a generally cool guy on the internet type dude. Flies around in helicopters with a bevy of females. Anyway, he was in Las Vegas at the time that the shootings were occurring. His crew around him were filming him, and then obviously he goes up and see what's going on. So he runs up to this cop and says to this copper, "Give me a gun. Give me a gun. Would you want to see my credentials?" What fucking credentials? That you're a Navy SEAL dropout? Go and fuck yourself. You know, he became a threat himself to the actual larger picture, if you know what I mean.
Wow, man, that's fucking
he wouldn't have done it because he wanted to help people. He wanted to do it for kudos and punch behind his name. You know, I'm the guy that turned up and saved the fucking day. Yeah, basically the cop told him to go fuck himself, get away. You know,
dude, if in Ohio, if somebody were to do that, that's interfering with the performance of a police officer. That's the first charge. You know, anybody who's got and worked around anything real, you don't do that, man. It's just not just it's unseemly, but it's unprofessional. Want to see my credentials? Dude, when I was a federal cop, you think I saw somebody, a woman, all alone, who's a deputy, issuing a ticket. Do you think I pulled up in my unmarked car with my credentials and said, "Do you need assistance?" Fuck no. She knows her job. Now, if all of a sudden I see a fight breaking out, I might get out then.
Yeah.
But even then, I know there's one thing. She knows she's the law. She doesn't know I'm the law. I'm not wearing a uniform. And fucking she might ventilate me for running at her.
Now, if Bilzerian had walked up and said to the officer, "What can I do?" it'd have been a different question altogether. What can I do? How can I help? That copper might have turned around and said, "Nothing. Keep out the way." That's what you fucking do. Because the policeman that he'd spoken to, the copper that he'd spoken to, wasn't a tactical team member. He wasn't anybody special. He was just a normal beat cop. You know what I mean? But he was the beat cop on the ground that Bilzerian had approached and said, "Can I do anything? Give me a gun." There's credentials.
Well, let's not make
He
this.
doesn't have an APC. He doesn't know what the tactical situation
Yeah,
on the ground is. He just wanted to look cool.
let's not make this the Balzarian show because I don't know
The
who the
Balzarian,
guy.
the ball sack show.
Yeah, I don't know the dude. I don't know anything about him, and I'm not going to slide him. But I'm taking you on your word that you do know more than I do. I never heard that story, and me and Georgios went through, and we probably had the definitive show on the shooting in Vegas. But that is a story. It probably slipped my radar because I probably saw something about it and didn't know the dude, and I'm like, what a ridiculous story.
Yeah.
But
it was ridiculous.
But yeah, man. Anyways, yeah, no, man. Even when I had authority, here's the thing: badges don't give you authority. You give yourself authority, and the government gives you authority, or whatever, right? But the badge is merely symbolic. And with authority, true authority, Baz, and if I'm wrong, you tell me I'm fucking wrong because I know I'm not. Authority comes with responsibility. Ultimate responsibility. If shit goes sideways and you fucked up, you're gonna pay. Trust me, they've tried to do me several times. I was always justified, and I wasn't wrong. Stay to the right, and I don't mean the right wing. Stay right as long as you feel comfy and you feel secure, and even in those quick decisions, that OODA loop, when it runs only from mere presence to having to take lethal action, and you can skip the rest of the ladder of force when you need to do it. Trust me. And as long as you know you're right, you can... Look, here's how my uncle phrased it to me. You can be right, and you can be dead right. So at least give yourself a chance. And that's all I have to say on that. But you bring up some really interesting points. See, this is why we always have a great show. We wanted to lightly touch on the Rittenhouse thing, and I think we successfully did that without boring you and not getting into too much legalese. I love every time me and Baz get together, and most people on my page do love it, Baz. And sadly, you're working and I'm doing my thing, and you know, we just can't connect as much as often as we could. But brother, you know, this is how these shows work. We go from one subject to the other, and this ended up being not just a little touch on Rittenhouse, but we touched on the Grayman, touched on dressing out, literally, and we ended up touching on a funny story about somebody trying to be a helper.
Be the hero.
Be a helper. Be a helper. Let's just be a helper that's not needed. Yeah. Yeah, I want to get inserted into a team that's highly trained, and with my high training that might conflict with their high training, fucking endanger myself and them. Yeah, that makes about as much sense as my dick going into another man's asshole.
Or walking around with a firearm in an active shooter fucking scenario when I'm not known to law enforcement or those around me.
Fuck.
You're going to get yourself ventilated.
That's
or
just
somebody else fucking ventilated.
That's a recipe for disaster. And guess who you got to blame for that action? Yourself. When they ventilate you and you're going to see St. Peter or you're going to Valhalla, they're going to look at you and say, yeah, warrior, no, you were a dumbass.
Yeah, but all you've done there is cause someone to now be questioned, probably suspended off the job, probably go to court and face fucking wrongful killing charges, have their life ruined, possible PTSD. You know what I mean? All because you wanted to be the fucking hero. You know, don't become a threat to those trying to eliminate a threat. You know, take people away from the threat. Bill Zarian is again, we won't touch on him anymore, but he would have been better turning around and going, you guys know me, don't you? Yeah, then let's all fucking go this way. Let's get away from this situation. And he could have saved fucking 30, 40 people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying that he caused the deaths of people. I'm not saying that whatsoever. That's what I'm not saying. But he'd have been a lot better rather than asking for a gun and putting himself in a situation where he looked a dick to turn around and said, everybody, let's go this way. Get away from here. You know what I mean? Use his influence and his presence for the better, not for a punch.
Exactly. Help people extricate
Yeah,
themselves from and
yeah,
get egress out of the fucking zone of fire.
yeah,
And that
yeah.
would have
Rather
made,
than rather than cause more casualties,
yeah,
health casualties. You know.
yeah, I
Yeah,
agree, man. That kind of thing. You know, it's like when I was a cop, I was like, if something happens, look, I'm, I'll tell you, if the back of the store's safe, and this is when my son was young, you and my son get out of here. And don't worry about me. And if anything happens and they're trying to see if anybody is with me, don't cry. Don't make any kind of emotional thing. I don't care if I'm bleeding out on the fucking ground. Act like you don't even know me. Kick me
yeah,
if they want you to. You know? And because, in the end, you're not protecting anybody if you don't educate your very family.
yeah.
And that's a fact. The job has its dangers. It has, anyways, I'm glad I don't do that shit no more. Trust me on that. But, I don't have to worry about all that shit. All I have to worry about is Kaiser's Castle, baby. That's it.
Thank God.
Oh, at shooting at cars. You brought that up earlier. Here's
Yes,
something you
shoot
and
cars.
here's something you and I both know, and this is something to make sure the people out there who are armed, carry concealed, listen to me, listen to Baz, and Baz will correct me if he thinks I'm wrong. In all my experience, and probably all Baz's, don't shoot the fucking windows. Windows will make bullets go errant. It happens all the time. You shoot below the window so that it goes through the fucking dashboard into the metal of the vehicle. You're not shooting into the engine block. You're shooting right below the window into that nice little juicy part where it's got a little thin little bit of metal, and then it's going to go through plastic and into their fucking abdomen. So
Yeah,
don't dick around with windows, because all it takes is one bullet, and bullets do funky shit on windows. And it's going to take, if you shoot a lot of well-aimed rounds at a certain point in that window, yeah, you'll create a hole. But where did those
or
bullets
if you're
go?
firing steel cold rounds that you have in the
Yes,
military.
yes, yes, exactly. So unless you have those things on you, and he's talking rifle rounds, not pistol
Yeah,
rounds.
not pistol rounds.
Pistol rounds, put them down, and if they're going by you to the side and they barely missed you and you want to get around in, go through the fucking door,
Mm.
not the window.
Yeah, I mean you've got a better chance of shooting someone side on through the window than you have head on through the windshield, because the
Yes.
rounds, even at close range, they go everywhere. They go everywhere. And I've got experience of shooting out of cars, not much shooting into cars, if you know what I mean. Shooting out of cars and
Same here.
shooting through. If you're putting rounds through a windshield, chances are you're just putting them through the hood, the top of your engine block. You know,
Yep.
because of the way that the round will hit the window and be deflected down at 45 degrees, and chances are if it does go through the winch, it's just going to go through your hood and into your engine. So there's a whole different way to shoot through windows and things like that. You're easier to shoot through a side window, the driver's side or the passenger side window, at a 90-degree angle because it's flat.
Yeah.
But again, there's nothing to say that your round isn't going to deflect and go elsewhere. It's not going to go back at you, but you're not guaranteed for it to go through the window and into the person, especially if there's other occupants in the car, because fucking the last thing you want is to try and shoot the driver and it hits the passenger on the other side, who might be an innocent, or in the back,
Yep.
which might be an innocent, or even, God forbid, a child. So
Yep.
again, it comes down to that OODA loop. Can I do it safely? And
Yep.
again, if you do it, at the end of the day, you are going to end up in court for it. If it goes through, it hits the driver in the head, stops the threat, and everything's good. No, it's all self-defense. Nobody else is injured. The chances are it's not going to go to court because there's no charges being brought up. But that one little thing goes wrong. That one little quirk of physics goes wrong, and you're getting tried by people because
and you've altered innocent lives, including yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get it, man. The other thing is, yeah, firing out of a window or out of a vehicle moving, which I've done too. It's so funny. I've heard the morons say, "Oh, we're doing 60 going down the fucking road in Iraq, and I know I got 2 rounds in his fucking grape." It's like, bitch, please. Nobody gets 2 rounds in a 60-mile-an-hour moving vehicle and can tell you where they hit him. You may have smoked his ass, but you don't know where those rounds hit. I'm sorry. They can be fucking 20 yards or 20 meters from you, and you might see some pink mist, maybe, but that's about it. You know, you don't know where you hit exactly. You've seen those dudes that brag on their fucking marksmanship from a moving vehicle. Eat a dick.
Well, unless you're going 60, you're a trunk monkey. The vehicle behind you at 15 meters away is also doing 50 in a straight line.
Oh yeah.
And you're firing a rifle with steel cold rounds. Then maybe you're fucking hit someone in the head. But
That's
driving along, hitting someone at an oblique angle at 60 mile an hour, go and fuck yourselves.
Yeah, that's a whole different animal, being a trunk monkey in the cat car. So I know what you're talking about, brother. But yeah, no, I'm talking about dudes that break sill to get that shot into a vehicle that's trying to overtake or something. You know what I'm talking about, from Iraq and Afghanistan. So it's common to do, but it's in a fucking war zone, an unhealthy state. And really, in an unhealthy state, they don't have a healthy legal system, and guess what happens? You're not going to be prosecuted. But do you think I ever did it? I think I broke sill one time, and once I broke sill and the gun came out, the driver quickly put on his brakes. It was fucking like a Mad Max fucking brake. You remember that part in Mad Max where he jams on his brake? That's what it was like, this Iraqi. And then another time, another dude was driving. I was back with the client in the back seat, and dude broke sill and fucking with his AK. And all he did was hit the tire of the vehicle with a lot of rounds. He emptied mag. And I'm looking at him. Dude, it was a fucking Toyota loaded with kids. And I live with this to this day, watching that car go into the median and flip and turn. And I'm like, how many kids maybe died or got seriously injured from your fucking shit? And when I got back, I said, pull this motherfucker off the job. I was like, this dude, fuck, our client now thinks less of us. You know, that kind of shit. You know, just because you can do it doesn't mean you do it.
Yeah. It might be lawful, but it doesn't mean it's morally right. You know?
Right.
And again, it circles back to the Rittenhouse case, mate. You know what I mean? Is it lawful? Is it right? You know what I mean? 1,000,000,001 questions can be answered. And they can always be answered, but at the end of the day, the only people that know what went on at that very moment in time going through that fucking lad's head is Carl Rittenhouse. And I'm glad that sense has come to the surface, and he's walked a free man.
And not just that.
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, fuck around and find out. And I guarantee you that verdict, and this is why it was a big verdict, a lot of people internationally. First, I loved your take on the international thought on what it meant, but first I'll tell you what it in truth meant. All these activist attorney generals and mayors that allowed this shit to happen and allowed everybody to burn down and fucking just destroy shit arbitrarily. This is now going to have a chilling effect in states where concealed carry and carry openly is legal. And that's what they didn't want, because they want to use this strategy anytime they want to defeat somebody like Orange Man Bad. Create the chaos. That's what they want, is the chaos.
They wanted to set a precedence, and Rittenhouse get hung out to dry to say, we can riot all we want and you can't do a fucking thing about it. And all they've done is done the complete opposite. You can riot if you want, but don't fucking come whinging if you get ventilated, and don't think about prosecuting the guy that's just ventilated you, because Carl Rittenhouse has set precedents. You know what I mean? In the Rittenhouse versus Kenosha case, or you know what I mean, is he walked away a free man because of this. And in my eyes, that's a fucking good thing. If you want to turn a city to fucking rubble and ash, you know what I mean, and injure and beat and kill those trying to stop it, then don't come crying when some of your little lefty friends, your little communist comrades, are laid in the street with an extra fucking breathing hole.
Yep. Don't complain.
To find out.
Don't complain when you're like a well and now you breathe through your chest. So it's a sad thing for all. I mean, I have to be honest. I mean, the family members, you know, even the pedo had a mother who cried for him.
Yeah.
So
I'm one of these heartless cunts, mate.
I know
society's a better place without them, mate.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'm saying that thing, and I agree with you fully on that, but that thing also, you know, I'm talking about the mother, you know, and maybe a sister or brother that he didn't fucking try to molest or whatever. But the point is, the bad thing, this is the worst thing about it, is Kyle Rittenhouse is a 17-year-old, and, you know, I remember when I took my first shot. For the rest of his life, will remember what he did. And, you know, everybody made a meme of him crying and stuff like that. No, he's reliving the current events under threat of prosecution, not persecution. He's already persecuting himself enough. Did I make the right decision? Oh my God, I'm in court. I identify everything with everything he was going through. He was a younger man than I was, but Jesus fucking Christ, man. And it's just one of those things that, you know, we can laugh and joke and at least enjoy the fact that now hopefully the rioters realize it's not free. And hopefully they don't do this anymore, because if it wasn't for the rioters, he wouldn't have been there helping his dad at the grocery store to keep it safe. And then they saw a weak young man and they baited him to come over with a burning thing that he put out, you know, the dumpster, that they're willing towards a gas station. Imagine even the protesters willing it, because they're so stupid, willing it over there, and they start a massive fire in the gas station. How many innocents, including the protesters, would have died? It's mob mentality.
But don't forget, Kyle Rittenhouse, the white supremacist, was going to help two Asian guys that owned a garage or a gas station.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is, surely, if he was a white supremacist, he'd have helped fucking wheel the thing over. You know, again, and it all comes down to this spin. Media fucking spin.
Let's be clear about Asian guys so everybody understands. In England, they even consider Middle Eastern and Indian, not feather Indians. They consider them as Asians, which they're technically correct because it's Southwest Asia. So, like I said, how can you be a white supremacist when you're going over to help out a couple Indian blokes that happen to be your neighbors? You know, it makes no sense.
Yeah. Spin. All spin. But let us say the spin, it's sort of eating itself up. It's backfired on itself, and now it's created a precedent that hopefully, hopefully not, but hopefully it deters people, because I don't want to see any more people die. Well, I don't care about paedophiles. They all line them up.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with.
I don't want to see any more young American men or women, like Kyle Rittenhouse, having to have that burden of taking another human's life, and having the burden of being persecuted. His families. Chances are Kyle Rittenhouse can never move back to where he's lived, and if he becomes the rich man that I hope he does, then he doesn't have to. But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end with that no guilty verdict, because you will have these Antifa fucking left wing or whoever will smash the guy's windows, will slash the tyres of his cars, will persecute anybody who supported him. You know what I mean? It's far-reaching. It doesn't just end at that no guilty verdict. It goes on for the rest of his life. And the only way that it's going to sort of like ease for him is if he becomes a very rich man, it's just to move away from the area. Not that he might want to, but if I had a 17-year-old lad and if Kyle Rittenhouse was my son and he got all the money that chances are he's going to get, I would just like to build a different life for yourself where nobody knows who Kyle Rittenhouse is.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Here's what I'll say, man, because I think you conflated something. And I want to be very clear because everybody, including you, know this. I despise pedophiles. To me, his death means nothing. I was specifically saying for the loved ones he's left behind. Yeah. I agree that motherfucker should have been... A matter of fact, if they would have kept him in the loony bin they put him in, instead of putting him in prison, if they would have left him in there, which was done by the same prosecutor who took that decision to let him out, and all they did was empty the jail so that the fucking rioters could keep doing this shit. So, this is how this happened. They knew criminals would come and chaos would ensue. And that's the number one communist tactic. Soros's Attorney General's project and Mayor's project is what caused all of this. And folks, think local, be vocal. You look up every candidate and see if they got Soros funds. That's the problem. And that man, he already can't go to England because there's an arrest warrant on his ass since he tried to collapse the pound. And he's doing it to America now. He's got bigger things in sight, and he's trying to do it through the West, through Klaus Schwab. So, yeah, we can even digress a little bit into the Omicron. Yeah, the variants. They keep coming out with them. Just in time, right? Kind of funny, isn't it?
So it's, like I say, it just coincides with a certain court case that's happening at this fucking moment in time, doesn't it? Obviously, the original sort of suspect died, inverted commas, killed himself, and all of a sudden, his sidekick, Ghislaine, or Ghislaine, whatever you want to call her, is now in court. And have you noticed that we're not seeing anything of it?
Well, they had a drawing of it why. Because federal courts you can't get video out of in America. That's the federal court system. But they did have a drawing of her and her lawyer. And her opening statement with her lawyer was like, she's going to name names. Yeah. Well, you're not going to know the names. They'll put that shit under lock and key. You think JFK was fucking hidden? They don't want Clintons. They don't want the Bidens. They don't want all the names they know that will show up going to the little fun island. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I say, that shit will be under lock and key for the next fucking 5 decades at least.
Shit, I think, didn't they have one member of the Crown loosely, a member of the Crown implicated in that stuff? So know that shit, and you think Klaus Schwab didn't go there? Shit. He's as degenerate as the fucking day is long and the night is hot, or the night is cold.
Yeah, so it speaks volumes when they're not speaking about it at all, if you know what I mean. It's kind of... But it's the actual ignorance of it, to think that we're ignorant to it.
Hey, it's 15 days to slow down the spread, brother, that's now turning into 2 years. Yeah. Folks, if you can't see it yet, you better wake up.
We have the same over here, dude. We've had the same over here. It was wear your mask, it'll be okay. Get your jab, it'll be okay. Now it's get your booster, or we'll fucking cancel Christmas. Consider that we in the UK were back to normal. There was no mask mandates, no vaccine mandates or anything. There was nothing. It was back to normal. The only place that you had to wear one really was in hospital. And that's because purely it's common sense. It's common sense. There's vulnerable people there. I didn't oppose that. I didn't oppose that whatsoever, because that is just common fucking sense. But then it's kind of just today, Boris Johnson's come on and said, you've got to wear your mask on public transport and in shops, but you don't have to wear your mask in restaurants or pubs. And I said, well, is COVID not allowed in the pub or the restaurant? It's stupidity. And I'm glad to see that on social media that a lot of the British public are just like, go and fuck yourself. We've had enough of this bullshit.
Well, look what they did. Look what they did in Austria. I had a brother of mine from Austria, Zod, on the other day, talking about the lockdowns there. And do you remember a long time ago when me and you first were, well, not first, but it was in the middle. It was during that time in question that, you know about what went on. And I said, this may be the first time that the East saves the West. And I meant by the immigrant invasion. I now believe this may be the first time the East saves the West, and it's from the Far East, which is China. This is a plot, dude. There is no other way. China has always been our biggest threat since we started helping them become a superpower. And it was, and I've said this numerous times, I'm the most consistent motherfucker anybody's met. China, when the Soviet Union fell, and it fell only in name. I'll put it that way, and I'll do another show on that one sometime to explain myself further. But once that officially fell, and when you saw the Berlin Wall get chipped away on November 9th, 1989, that's a fact. It was on my birthday. I remember the date very well. And I know where I was during that time. When that wall came down, I even felt an elation. Hey, ein Reich und frei deutsches Vaterland, one right and free German fatherland, and I believed it. But once Helmut Kohl died, I could see the difference. And everybody forgets the CDU, Christian Democratic Union Party, that Angela Merkel leads. Well, that party started in East Germany. So did the Soviet Union really die? But you know who doesn't want any of that back? Romania, Hungary, Poland. They're the resistors. And they're not falling for the bullshit.
The Ukraine.
The Ukraine too. Yeah.
The Ukraine is the Ukraine for the Soviets. The Russians is the front door into Europe or the back door into Europe, and that's why the European, the EU, and the British, because we don't class ourselves as the EU anymore, are so involved with the Ukraine. They're so involved with the Ukraine is because that is, you know what I mean? That is the nearest threat to us, which is the Russian threat.
And why Biden and Obama quickly wanted all the investigations stopped, because they were dirtying up the elections over there. The Ukraine was the test bed for what happened here. I'm telling you now, history will vindicate me. Everything you saw from these elections was test bedded out in the Ukraine. And I know that for a fact. And as I stated, I picked my son up, our surprise guest last time Baz was on. And when Max was here, don't think I didn't go and talk to the people in Maricopa County, Arizona. Don't think I didn't talk to the people in New Mexico. Don't think during our journey back home I didn't stop and other people didn't stop in places, and the investigation still continues. And that's what they're also not talking about. There was a lot of fraud, dude. A lot of it.
Just fuckery. And it's kind of, on the global scale, it's massively called into question, the political integrity of the United States. But again, is that what the agenda is? By certain parties over there.
And over in Europe, man. Because honestly, it started in Europe. EGS, or hold on, economic globe. Hold on. ESG, economic, social, ESC. Yeah, it's ESC. Economic, social credit scores. They're pushing for that in banking now. This is all communism. They're trying to take over banking. Why do you think they're hyperinflating our money? We're going to be Venezuela, folks. Get used to it. How do you make everybody, how do you get equity? Equality is one thing. Everybody's equal under the law. Everybody has an equal shot to rise or fall. How do you give everybody equity? Equity means everybody's equal in their squalor, equally fucked. That's what equity truly means. It brings you down to the lowest common denominator, which is Venezuela. So America is not going to be a superpower by the time Let's Go Brandon leaves office.
Yeah, it's a fucking shame, mate. It's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah.
He's done more to damage. People say, oh, Trump this, Trump that, Trump this. On a global scale, as in, when I say global, so I'm talking geopolitical power, he's done more damage than anybody else has done in history. China now, looking at the US and going, they're a soft touch.
Well, now
they're a soft touch.
Here's how much. I think you conflated something. I think people might have thought you meant Trump did more damage. I think you meant
no. That's what I mean. When people say, "Look at Trump. Trump's done this," obviously the media again pushing it. Trump is the big orange evil, where he did a lot to strengthen geopolitical power of the US. In my eyes, as an Englishman looking out towards the US.
Same with every other foreigner that I know. Yeah, and that includes Afghans.
America first, and it was kind of, look, we don't care what you think. We look after number one, but we're not going to start any more wars. In fact, Trump's going to end some wars. He went to North Korea. You know what I mean? Drone strikes were all-time low with Trump. You know, where it's kind of, Trump was the evil guy. He's done this, he's done this, he's done this. But look, you look at Obama. He bombed more fucking targets than the past three presidents of the United States with drones.
And,
you know,
and he didn't replace the missiles. He didn't fucking do shit for our military defense. Trump came into a depleted military. Milley, he should have been fired as soon as Trump met him. I do blame certain things on Trump. He didn't fire enough people. He should have fired everybody in the SES and to the Special Executive Service, and he should have looked through all their jackets, seen where they went to school, anybody from Berkeley, and just look and see, because before they were calling it critical theory, they used to call it studies, women's studies, queer studies, all that. Anybody with anything like that in their fucking jacket from college, fucking bounce them, fire them.
Yeah.
And you replace them with people that actually, and interview them. Do you believe in American greatness? And look them in the eyes. And replace every one of them by himself or a trusted person. Because the SIS, especially the Special Intelligence Service, if you could not, that's the intelligence agency's version of the SES, Special Executive Service. If you can't talk to people like that, and figure them out really quickly, then you don't deserve to have the job. And so I will blame him for not getting rid of enough people, but they kept him perpetually in court or under fucking impeachment and shit. It was a plot from the beginning. This was a coup. Everything about it. And what are the 3 M's we need for a coup? Money, military, and media. And baby, we got all 3.
Well, we'll see how it goes. We're going to have to see how it goes, you know.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's, well, how many years have you got of it now? Unless he piles in and fucking Kamala takes over.
We're only really 10 months into it. And look at America now. Yeah. So it's going to go.
We've got another 3 years of it.
We'll be looking at $8 a gallon.
The world's
gas.
got another 3 years of it.
Yep. We're going to be looking at $8 a gallon gas. They're going to keep giving out handouts to people. I'll tell you what's going to happen. That way they got a voting block. Because who wants to give up their free shit, right? Who wants to work for a living? Why can't I stay home and, jack my dick all day? instead of going out there and making something better, you know? Why can't I amuse myself? Bread and circus, right? Rome fell, man. We lasted, well, Rome actually, on the eastern portion of Rome, that lasted for another 70 years after Rome fell, but, you know, this is just the way it works. So, you know, I'm more stoic about it than anything because I'm just like, get up in the morning and do your own day, you know, and greet the
Yeah.
people welcoming and, you know,
Staying,
realize.
staying local, that's all you can do.
Yes.
Look inwards.
Yeah.
Again, we touched on this massively on one of our last shows.
Yeah.
But I think all you can do nowadays is just like shut the fucking shit off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sort of from Washington level downwards. That's where you're looking. You just concentrate on yourself, America. You know what I mean? Fuck what the rest of the world are doing. Let China do China. For fuck's sake. You know, they're doing no different from what anybody else is doing, to be honest. The British Empire did. We fucking did it worse than anybody else. You know, we colonised 75% of the world for spices and riches and, you know what I mean? We got an entire nation hooked on heroin, for fuck's sake.
Right.
Well, you know,
remember, like I said earlier, I'm the most consistent motherfucker anybody met. People ask me, who do we need to worry about as a future enemy? It's very simple. Who are we funding now? Who are we funding now? Who is the U.S. government funding? That's your next enemy, American people. That is your next enemy. Who is America funding? Look where the money's coming from America. That's your next enemy and where it's going to.
Yep. I say, well, we hope it doesn't get that way because what we've been doing for the past 20 years will be a lot different from what we'll be doing in the next 3 years if we go to war with what we'll call a near-peer adversary.
Oh, it'll be, there'll be mushrooms sprouting all over the world.
Yeah, we won't that. Because all it takes is the wrong decision. And it's usually over the smallest shit. All it takes is a modern-day Franz Ferdinand, Archbishop, Franz Ferdinand, millions dead.
I know.
First World War.
It won't be millions, brother. It'll be hundreds of millions. And maybe even billions. So that's just reality in a fucked up planet. Global warming, guess what? The globe will warm up real quick when the mushrooms start sprouting.
Yeah. With the heating rockets. Those free heat rockets they're going to give out.
Hopefully they do it. Hopefully they
free
do
heat for everyone.
Hopefully they do it in winter when everybody's freezing to death in America because everything's gone green.
Whee.
Yeah,
but dude, it's been a great show. I'm going to have to cut away. But again, thanks to everybody who's going to be listening. Got any comments, let me know. That for me. And I'll answer them next time I'm on the show with Shuffy.
Yep. And folks, thanks for sticking around to Kaiser's Castle. I will slowly raise the drawbridge as you meander on out of it with your coffee, tea, soda, and or adult libation. With that being said, shove out.